I'm Sarah Olivieri. I am a nonprofit business strategist, former executive director, and creator of the Impact Method, and #1 international best-selling author. And I'm really excited to be talking to you today about projecting your expenses for your SBA loan. And actually, I'm really excited about talking to you about projecting your expenses for yourselves in your organization. So let's dive in. So this is going to specifically apply to the economic injury loan, not the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, which is connected to this loan. So if you've already applied, you may have noticed that shortly after launching the EIDL loan, the SBA switched to a shortened form format that's really designed to get you your advance on your loan. But nobody knows for sure yet what they will follow up with in asking you, but I'm going to guess that they're probably going to follow up with the forms that they already have in place for previous EIDL loans before they give you the full amount of your loan. Because in the shortened application, you didn't even get to request how much you want. But in the previous versions of the EIDL applications, you do have the opportunity to really make a case for the amount of economic injury that the coronavirus, in this case, that's the disaster here, has caused to your organization. So even though you probably haven't been asked for this information yet, you are going to be asked for it in all likelihood. Also, preparing for exactly how you're going to respond so that you can recover is really important. Even if there wasn't going to be a loan, this is still something that you should be doing for your organization. So we can put this link in the show notes in the description on YouTube, but I've included it here. This is the link to get to the old paper forms for applying for the full loan. So the latest I've heard is the SBA does not want you submitting all these forms, and they may or may not require you to submit these. But these are the forms that have been around for this same type of loan for a while. So I would say it's a really good bet that they're likely to ask you for the information that's on these forms. And the one I want to draw your attention to is Form 1368, and I'm going to show you briefly the kinds of things they ask for on that form. That is the form where you get to provide an estimate about the amount of money that's going to be coming in this year during the period of the disaster, which is kind of still being determined, which is probably why they're not asking for these forms just yet, and the 3 previous fiscal years. And then they're also asking you to forecast for the period of the disaster or whatever period they decide to cover, what your expenses are going to be. So whether or not you end up applying for this or whether or not they end up asking for this information, this is information that you should build into a plan regardless now. So this is my picture. This is not the time to stick your head in the sand. You want to keep your head out and you want to be creating a plan for your own recovery. So of course, we have a cheat sheet right here. What are some of the things you should be thinking about? Of course, you may experience reduced income, but you might also have increased expenses. And in fact, if one of your reduced areas of income means that your old ways of fundraising, let's say you used to have a gala, are no longer going to work, then you need to actually have increased fundraising expenses so that you can shift to new ways of fundraising and get that revenue back up. So this, you should have both probably less income and certainly increased expenses in some areas. So here's your cheat sheet right from the SBA about the kinds of expenses they're thinking about. And then we have this other expenses category, which will apply. That's kind of where you can lay out the other things that don't fit into these kind of more traditional IRS type boxes. But I want you to think a little bit more than just these basic categories, because what we're thinking about here, and often in our organizations, we're thinking about our strategy to make an impact on our mission. But here we're really thinking about how are you going to sustain your operational capacity by strategically investing or divesting in various areas. So these are some areas that every nonprofit has. And so you can use this as a list to think about for each of these how you're going to make a plan to recover from this current situation in each of these areas. So visioning, innovation, relationships, optimum speed and capacity, keeping your team operating in a highly effective way, managing risk, both taking good risk and not taking excessive bad risks. Resources, making sure your resources are leveraged. That could be money, buildings, etc. Products and services, so whatever your service is related to your mission, and making sure that you have customers coming in or clients, depending on who you serve, as well as making sure that you keep building that base of donors and supporters. So these are the areas across your organization I want you to think about the expense categories in each one. Where might you be cutting? But also, where are you going to need to spend more? If you underspend, you are likely to fizzle and fade away. And I don't want that for any of you. So I just want to give you one more tool to help you think about each of these areas besides just money. And this is a SWOT analysis, or as I like to call it, a SWOTA analysis, because we don't want to just think about our strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. We want to make decisions about how we're going to act differently related to what we think about in these four areas. So I want you to ask yourself as you go through your organization, what are the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities facing each area? And as a result, what are we going to start doing? What are we going to stop doing? And what are we going to continue but change the way we've been doing it? So start, stop, and change. That's the action part of the new acronym SWOTA. And finally, as you do that, document your plan. This doesn't need to be a giant book. It can be a list of bullet notes about what you're planning to do. If you're already using the impact method, you're probably going, I know exactly where to put that. But if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to me. And write up the budget with the plan. And that way, when you do need to provide this information to the SBA, you will have it pretty much ready to go. And you can work with your accountant to make sure that you have accurate historical numbers. So that is my quick micro training for today. If you'd like to talk with me one-on-one, you're welcome to apply for a free consultation call at pivotground.com/apply. We are still running our mastermind group, which is an almost free coaching opportunity to work with me and a small handful of other nonprofits. It's really geared towards small nonprofits who wouldn't be able to afford coaching. Normally, this is my way of giving back to the community. So if that would be helpful to you, you can read more about it at pivotground.com/mastermind.